Hi, my name's Constantine. I'm Director of Operations here at the Oakland Scottish Rite, and I'm excited to tell you about all the amazing repairs we've done to this building to give it a fresh look. Originally, this room looked a little bit like a mausoleum because it was just a straight room with no plants, no foliage, and the room didn't really get broken up visually to the eye. We've added these palm trees, and we've also added these tables that were off to the sides to kind of give people a feeling of space in the room. Another thing we've done is we've repaired all the lights going around the room, most of which were made out of plastic. We had a stained glass cutter come in and recut the lights so that they would look together. Our maintenance engineer, George, welded the bottoms back on from broken lights, and we basically assembled lights out of multiple other lights to bring these back to life. Another feature I'm happy to say I was personally involved in was the repainting and touch-up of this ceiling that's above me. I spent 2 weeks on scaffolding, touching up all the little dots and cracks in the ceiling. So another thing we've done is we've added lighting to this grand staircase that we have on both sides of the lobby. And to accent it, we touched all the railings up with gold and did a lot of gold features. Before, the railing was very old and rusting, and now it's got a breath of fresh air. And lastly, we polished up the floors so that the room really pops. We also rebuilt the mouth of the Bandshell, otherwise known as the stage. Here you see Philip Lawson repairing a lot of the ornate features that were damaged by props being moved on and off the stage.
I'm here doing some restoration work. This stage was built in 1926, and all of this is plaster work that they would cast these in large molds and in 12-foot sections. And over the years, the paint has come off and the motif had been badly chipped up. Whole sections of this were broken off. What I did was I came in and reformed the plaster. I just put bulk plaster on there, and then I carved the pieces to match the same shape. So hopefully we can't see where these pieces have been replaced. Sanded them off, reformed them, sanded them off, and then painted it back as best I could to the original color. This stage is is 16 feet by 30 feet by 16 feet. They set up a scaffolding for me, and we finished this in about 2 weeks.
As the bread and butter of our rentals here at the Scottish Rite, the grand ballroom needed a lot of attention to be brought up to 2013-2014 standards. Another feature we've done is we've fixed up the stage from a square front stage to a triple curved stage, the way it was originally intended to be made back in 1927 when the building was built. One of the biggest accomplishments that we've been able to do is sand down this floor and repolish it so it looks brand new. The floors had not been polished for several years, probably even decades. A lot of them were in disrepair, and there were holes in the floors that high heels would get stuck in. During one of the dances, we had a lady whose high heel got stuck in one of the splintered floorboards. She fell, hurting her ankle, which is what prompted us repairing this floor.
One of the things we noticed when we started repairing the floor is that we had a lot of wood members that were damaged by subterranean termites that come up from underneath the ground. Damage like this eats underneath the planks, and they can give way fairly easily. What we've begun to do is to bore holes in concrete all the way around the building every 15 inches, and then inject that with Planet Orange termite poison so that there wouldn't be any more termites eating our precious hardwood floors.
We've come in and put in a lot of new boards that have since aged to blend like the rest of the floor. The polish is a very strong finish that should last for years and years to come. One of the other things we were able to accomplish this year is repainting these giant doors on both sides from the front and the interior. A lot of them needed a lot of work and haven't been painted since probably the 70s or 80s. We were also able to have our staff on scaffolding repair the dozens of shreds to the drapery that was hanging in our ballroom. We were also able to install this vinyl floor so that pallet jacks of food could be brought in through the loading area. And this new floor matches a little bit better with the old floor to look like a brand new finish. That way there's not two distinct colors on our flooring. In the kitchen, one of the biggest problems was a lot of our appliances weren't operational. In fact, out of the 8 ranges we have here, only about 2 worked. We've come in and rebuilt a lot of the appliances, refilled the refrigerators with coolant, and restaged the place to be more efficient for the employees that are serving food. We've also repainted the walls, and we sent a camera down our plumbing system and cleaned out all those pipes so that we won't have a problem with drainage of water when we're running the washing machines during cycling our catering plates. One of the things we started doing was putting in this fence to give the Scottish Rite a really high-end appeal, because before it was mostly chain link fencing, and a lot of the chain links were broken, and when the wind blew it would move back and forth. But now we've got this iron gate that's getting finished off in gold on the tips and on the knuckles. We've added this gate and these railings to help people make it down the stairs more safely. One of the other things we did was we cut down this grapefruit tree, which dropped a lot of fruits onto our driveway, and people coming down using it as a handicap access would slip or get it stuck to their shoes, and they track it through the building. So we were able to get that large grapefruit tree removed. Another thing we did is we added these gates on all sides of the building because we had vagrants that would spend the night there and then scare our staff. We also had dogs that would go through and dig holes in our landscaping. So we have these gates to secure the facility a little bit better. We also resurfaced the parking lot this year. After a few years of the sun beating on it, cracks began to show, and we put new slurry down, and then we painted all new striping so that they're clearly marked. There was a lot of confusion when we'd have events over where a car would park because the lines were just painted over and over and over again, and it was difficult to find a parking spot because you didn't know whether you were in the lines or outside the lines. Though the garage doesn't hold anything of value, that didn't stop people from trying to break in. We put this new solid core garage door in so that people would just leave our garage door alone. Very often we'd come in the mornings with it half open, and a lot of the times it would take 2 people to open it simply because the locking mechanisms weren't functional. This one came with a backup battery so that if we ever lose power, it could still open or close. One of the big expenses we had in the lodge was covering up graffiti. Our staff would literally spend weeks out of the year repainting and repainting graffiti that was put onto the building by people hanging out outside. We repainted the building on all 3 sides, but up here the first 10 to 15 feet is with an anti-graffiti coating. The anti-graffiti coating cost around $900 for a 5-gallon barrel. And basically, if you spray paint or use a marker or anything else on the side of the building, it comes off with approximately a cup of water. And that should last for about 10 to 15 years. So since then, graffitis really hasn't been a problem because you just throw some water on it and wipe it down with a cloth. The same goes for the doors that were spray painted black. And by spray painting them black, anybody who spray paints the doors, we could just come right over, re-spray paint them, and you wouldn't be able to see the graffiti that was put on the doors itself. The glass, it's very easy to remove. We put new window grates all the way around the building for the windows that are easily accessible from ground level, because a lot of homeless people were stashing things in the window sills, and these new ones don't allow them to leave anything here. You actually can't even get fingers through. Also, a lot of them previously were cut so that they could access in and out of the building, and these new ones have been working well to keep people from further damaging our building or trying to break in. We're between the exterior of the building and the glass facade that makes up the top balcony portion of the building. This glass facade was originally intended to light up, but it hasn't been for decades. What we're doing is we're coming in and we're replacing a lot of these light fixtures and these light bulbs with LED. These are the LEDs, some at 11 watts and some at 4.8 watts that are going to be replacing this 100-watt bulbs. There's over 150 bulbs that need to be changed, so that adds up to quite a bit of savings. But by switching to 11 and 4-watt LEDs, we could keep this on in the evenings and showcase our building from anywhere on the exterior. For years, the Scottish Rite has been completely dark on the front facade of the building. People cruising around at night, walking Lake Merritt, would look up and they would see a giant black spot blocking out the rest of the city skyline. What we've done this year is turn these lights on that light up all the large columns that are more than 20 feet high, and they brighten the front facade of the building, making it look like a place that's inviting so that tenants and potential new members could come in and say, wow, what is this building, and introduce them to Scottish Rite Freemasonry. This is the room that houses all of the lighting. This room extends actually another story above us, and these are all the LED lights that we put in to light up the front of the building. You can see the rows below me and the rows to the sides. On the exterior of the building, we were fortunate enough to be able to afford repainting the front, both sides, with the graffiti coating, and also do a lot of the stucco repair that the building has been needing. So this is a rock that's fallen off the side of the building. We're going to take a look at how they repaired it and make sure that everything's great.
Came out from the corner right there because the rebar getting rust. As soon as the rebar getting rust, start pushing the concrete out, and then you can see over here the rust from this rebar. So then we take this off and we did a big old patch right there in the corner. It's hard to see it because we did a good job right there and it's not noticeable. So that was it, and it's repaired. I hope lasts another 50 years.
We had pieces of rock literally falling from the top of the building down to where our tenants and our members would walk just from wind blowing concrete off the top. There was a lot of damaged steel which by rust would pop open, and we had steel rebar coming out of the side of the building. We were able to sand that down, inject it with epoxy, re-stucco over it, and then obviously repaint the building. The front stairs of the building have their grout being removed from epoxy and switched in with concrete grout, because currently a lot of the stairs have water moisture penetration between them, causing warping and stains on the stairs. Once we replace that grout, it'll be just as good as new. Having noticed an excessive water bill, we started digging up a lot of the pipes around the building to see if any of them leaking, and sure enough, most of them have been. We've replaced a lot of urinals and a lot of sinks because a lot of them were leaking as well. Both the lodge room and the banquet facility received a fresh coat of paint, two-tone carpets, and new drapery. One of the important features of the drapery we had installed is to block out the light. Our previous drapery would allow beams of light to hit the projector screens during auctions and during other events that required projection systems. And a lot of the times we had our tenants complain that they weren't able to see the screens. Here, these drapery block out all of the light coming into the room, so we could literally turn out the lights, close all the windows, and have pitch dark inside the room. When you shine a flashlight through my shirt, you could see the light because it's translucent. These draperies allow no light. Another important feature for the fire department was to have all of the cloth material in the building flame retardant. These draperies were coated with a special fire suppressant that won't allow them to burn. For a more elegant look, we gave the molding in the room a glazed gold finish so that it really shines in the light and brings your attention to the features of the room. In the third floor kitchen, we installed an ancillary system so that our kitchen could be operated according to the Oakland Fire Department. We also repaired two of the ovens that hadn't been working previously, put in a gas shutoff valve, and refitted this Wolf range and oven system so that all the proper units were working and in good condition. We also covered the soundboards in the same pattern as the drapery and added a baseboard all the way around the floor. We were able to remodel both rental offices in the building. They're really the nerve center for the operations that happen here at the Oakland Scottish Rite. The clients sit here and spend most of their time actually dealing with contracts and things like that. So for that reason, we wanted to put our best foot forward by adding new furniture, new paint, new lighting, new computer system, as well as a lot of other things to make these offices work better for the people that are leasing the space and the people to be comfortable when they're purchasing the space. Another problem we had in the room was the lighting. Hey George, do you have those globes? So the original globes looked something like this, fabricated in 1927. Unfortunately, the problem is that as years went by, they were damaged and finally replaced with these other globes from the 50s. When we started replacing the globes, we realized that there were more than 7 different types of lighting globes throughout the room. And a lot of the wiring inside the lamps was damaged. Fortunately, George was able to bring down a lot of the lights and rewire them from the inside because the original 1927 tube wires were no longer sufficient to power all of the lights. Now Romax replaced a lot of that electrical wiring. Another thing that we noticed once the floor had been replaced, that the borders around the room looked really, really old and used. So we had them touched out with a spot of copper on the top line and then repainted it a nude Navajo white on the bottom to accent the floors and to give vertical lift for the room. This hole right beside me is part of the gutter system that we cleaned. Right there is the channel that George and the employees had to walk in order to clean the gutter system. This is more than 120 feet above the sidewalk. But there were photos taken from people's cell phones of the harrowing cleanup effort. We pulled more than 22 buckets of silt out of holes like this all the way around the building on the ledge, hanging off with nothing other than rappelling gear. The cracks you're seeing here is a result of calcification. What that means is that rainwater collects on the opposite side of this wall. And as the rainwater leaves, it leaves calcium and other minerals behind. What happens very often is that the concrete becomes brittle from years and years of this rainwater. After about 30 or 40 years or so of the gutter system surrounding this building not being cleaned, this is the result. And there are cracks throughout the structure of this building. This is part of the gutter system, which we excavated out of over a foot of silt rising above what would drain the water outside of the building. Unfortunately, the channels are inside the interior walls, and when they're full of dirt, that dirt, when it moistens up,
creates the calcification and retention of water in between the concrete walls of the building. We had to use a metal snake, just like you would a toilet, to basically bore out a lot of the salt, trash, paper, feathers, and all sorts of other things that built up inside the gutter system of the building.
Here in the librarian's office, there's quite a bit to be excited about. We first started off by replacing the carpet, painting the walls, adding new lighting, a phone system, and new electrical wiring to make this place work. But the librarian himself has also been cataloging books to a digital system, as well as doing a lot of video production work for the Oakland Scottish Rite, such as the Philosophy and Enlightenment Guild, along with a lot of other various projects like the one you're watching now, to market the Scottish Rite on a wider base through YouTube and to other Masonic Blue Lodges. One of our biggest expenses at the Scottish Rite in terms of labor costs outside of using my staff to do events is actually changing light bulbs. By switching to these LEDs, we would have to change light bulbs once every 27 years. Currently, the electrical system in the building is such that it's very common for feedback pulses to occur and break light bulbs. For that reason, we usually change a light bulb maybe 3 to 4 times a year. With these, we would only have to change it every couple of decades. So by switching to LEDs, we've been able to reduce our labor costs quite dramatically. What you see here is an arbiter. It converts usable AC into DC power. The reason we have this is because the dome inside our grand theater changes colors. And there's dimmers that can manipulate the 3 colors to form other colors. The reason it's so important is because proms, using our building as rentals, usually like to see their school colors. And without this thing working in proper order, we can't change the color of the dome to match the school colors. So we're getting this armature fixed and respun so that we could change the color of the dome to any color we like. What we've been able to do here is locate a lot of lost artwork that we've had throughout the building. The Lodge of Perfection has a lot of ancient photos going back even into the late parts of 1890s. And we've put them in acid-free mounting kits with UV-free glass so that these will be around even 100 years from today. And there were over 45 pieces that we located, some of which were hand-signed by the photographers and by the people involved in them. And they're being hung up throughout the entire building. This is one particular project both myself and Bruce are extremely proud of because we're restoring a lot of our old Masonic history. One thing I'm really proud to share with you guys is something we've been putting off for years, but we were able to get an artist to create these multi-dimensional pictures out of wood carved and painted for each of the lodges and the masters for each of the 4 bodies that make up the Scottish Rite. It was an immense amount of hours, but they look absolutely incredible, and it's really helped bring the lodge together. The Scottish Rite Childhood Language Clinic, as well as the Scholarship Foundation, also are receiving a small facelift. We've started with painting all the different walls, and we're going to be doing carpet here after honors. But already you could see the magnificent changes that the clinic is going through. This has been the Scottish Rite sound system for many, many years. We've been losing clients because a lot of the times the presenters in our auditorium and banquet facility haven't been able to hear clearly and be able to put on presentations at a corporate level. One of the most dangerous jobs we've had here is running cable and electrical wire between all the rooms in the building, including phone lines. What it requires is someone working under these conditions, sometimes 2 stories below the nearest exit in caves like the one you're going to see George in, simply to run a cable down there so that we could have phone service and electrical service in the more remote parts of the building. These are the conditions that George has to walk through, sometimes going a story or 2 below the building or the closest entry, simply to get a cable through. Beneath us is the ballroom. Let me introduce you to our new sound system. This state-of-the-art machine has everything we could possibly need, from throwing a dance to a high-end corporate event to doing auctions as well as everything else. Here in the secretary's office, we've had a lot of changes. We've redone the carpets in 2 tones. We've replaced a lot of the furniture that was from 1970s and falling apart. We replaced the ballasts and the lights to make them brighter because those were aged as well. We repainted all the walls and touched up a lot of things with personal touches and accents. We've also redone a lot of electrical, phone line, and internet services that came to this office to make it more efficient for the employees that work here. We've also purchased new office equipment like monitors and computers that were 2013 and not 1999. The new telephone system has also been very, very helpful for the employees of the Oakland Scottish Rite, as now we're able to transfer calls throughout the building. Our previous phone system actually caught fire in between the walls of the building, and we had to replace it under emergency circumstances. Some of the original photography that you've heard about earlier in this video is featured throughout the secretary's office. Of course, the more expensive and choice pieces are down here for brothers to view. There are more than a dozen windows we've done repairs to this year. This one is stained glass, and we had pieces broken in it just like several other pieces in the library. We were able to cut out the glass, put in new glass, matching it to the old, and then re-soldering the border around the glass. What you're seeing behind me is part of the multi-million-dollar AT&T tower that they've put up on top of our building. Alex Kirkpatrick was instrumental in getting this project approved and put up here. Now it provides income to help offset a lot of the costs here at the Oakland Scottish Rite.
Behind me is this glass roof that used to leak right directly onto our backdrops. Those backdrops are irreplaceable because they were originally painted in 1926, 1927. We came up with a couple options of how to repair this. Being that the repair costs were in the neighborhood of $30,000, we came up with the idea of literally scraping down all of the old glue that holds it together and replacing it with new modern flex rubber. The flex rubber, when it dries, holds out rain, and it also can withstand really high temperatures, including the sun. We've tried it on the opposite side and poured water all over it. No leaks have come through. Last year, we would take buckets and dump them into 55-gallon drums and then have people remove those 55-gallon drums full of water simply from one day's worth of rain. Now, it's going to be clean and dry, and we won't have this problem for years.
Thank you for watching our video, Rebuilding the Scottish Rite Temple.